Okay, so welcome everybody. Today we're going to start learning paragraph 17, which is on page 310 in the Hebrew and page 67 in the English. And just to give us an idea of where we are in the forest of Sha'arei Eichud, chapter 1. So for the first 14 chapters, tried to show you with, let me just show you that. Did anybody take a look at that, at the map that we did, that I showed you of the first 14 chapters? I'm just going to share that. I like this map. So this was the map of the first 14 chapters. Because basically what the Reb Hillel did was he showed us how Chabad works. Chochmah, Bina, Das. And then showed us how the Mashpia utilizes the system. Now that was the first 10 paragraphs. And then he showed us how the Mashpia uses the system of Chochmah, Bina, and Das to bring a very, very high idea from above Chochmah all the way down to the lowest parts of Bina to make it accessible to the Makabel, to the student. And here we're talking obviously about a godly idea, not just, like some kind of concept, but a godly idea from beyond Chochmah down all the way to Bina. And then he described to us how the Makabel then works, takes what the Mashpia has brought down to the lowest part of Bina, which is the Bina of Bina, the Orech of Bina, same thing, and begins the Iyun process and begins to work back up through Bina, all the way up to the Oimek of Bina, crosses over to the right side of the brain to Chochmah, and goes all the way to the Oimek of Chochmah and gets access to their own Koach HaMaskil. So that was the first 14 chapters, describing this whole process of the Mashpia bringing down a very high godly concept, and then the Makabel, through the work, beginning with Iyun, managing to almost like climb, I see it as a ladder. The tzaddik, the Mashpia gives us a ladder that we can climb back up through and get access to our own Koach HaMaskil. And then, we can bring new ideas and new innovations. So that was the first 14 chapters. Then the last couple of weeks, and of course, what's the most important thing? Where did he land? The question that we began with was, how is it possible that we can unify Hashem's name, or we can get to know Hashem, the infinite Hashem, and the Hashem as he's manifest in the world? How can we unify those two things? Through Bina, through Shema, which means hearing. And so finally in paragraph 14, he said this Iyun process of the Makabel is rooted even higher, is rooted very high in a place called Bina Liba. And that is why Shema is done through Bina, not through Chochmah, because in some way, Bina, although it's lower than Chochmah in terms of it's not such a profound revelation, but this process of Iyun and Bina is rooted higher than Das, and then higher even than Chochmah on some level. So that's when he introduced us to Bina Liba. And then we needed to, in paragraph 15 and 16, he then, let me stop sharing. He then went on to explain more deeply what is this Bina Liba. And in order to do that, in paragraph 15, he showed us how Chochmah is really rooted in Ratzon. And so I want to just show you that image. Just bear with me for a moment. I just need to find it. Okay. Okay, so here's the image that we understood, and I'm sharing this because it's important for us to know this in order to go forward into what we're going to learn today. So this was the 4 levels of Chochmah. We had Chochmah, the Yud of Chochmah, as it's revealed to us in the right brain, and then we went higher to the Aleph of Chochmah, which were the Giddim, how Chochmah makes its way from the Koach HaMaskil into Chochmah, and then deeper than that was the Pele, which was the Tohom, which is this underground reservoir. And all of those 3 levels we already learned way back in paragraph 5, but then he introduced just to the level of Ratzon and how Chochmah is rooted in Chochmah of Ratzon. So he showed us that this revelation of Chochmah in the Yud of Chochmah, which is like that Barak HaMavrek, that flash of insight, is really rooted in the Chochmah of desire, of Ratzon. And then the next thing that we learned, which was last week, was how is where what is higher than that, Bina Liba. So he showed us that last week we looked at this and we all did this diagram on our own, that Oneg is divided into 2. Now, Oneg is higher than Ratzon, or it's the inner aspect of Ratzon. And there was Oneg Pashut, which really consists of Keter, Chochmah, and Bina of Oneg, and then Oneg Murkav, compound, which is the Midot, specifically Chesed of Oneg. And then the Keter, Chochmah, and Bina divided further into Oneg Nelam, which is hidden, which was the Keter and Chochmah, and then the Oneg Murgash, which was more felt. And here, I'm going to show you another. Here we saw that this Oneg Murgash is the place of, is where Bina Liba is rooted. So he finally showed us where is the root of Bina Liba? It's in Oneg, but it's in the highest levels, the second highest level really of Oneg. And this also becomes the source for Ratzon, whereas this Oneg Murkav was more enclosed in the Ratzon. Okay, it's a lot of information, but he's going to be now working off this to explain more deeply about Bina Liba and what that means to us. So, on a certain level, it can look like this is just like high math. And in a certain way, it is, but it also has meaning. It has meaning emotionally for us. And perhaps, we'll come to understand that more. I believe that we need to understand it, like just to understand what goes where. And then you can begin to understand what that means on a more personal level, even though these levels we're talking about are really super conscious. It's something that, it's not like Chochmah and Bina where we could give you an example, a very tangible example of that in our life. This is much more intangible, but it's like what's running the whole computer, our computer. This is what's, this is the structure of the neshama. This is what's driving us. Okay. So that's just a quick overview. And in this week's paragraph 17, they're going to be two separate stories in a sense. And we'll deal with them one at a time and then put them together. Basically, in this paragraph, he takes those two maps that I showed you and puts them together in a very beautiful 4-level map, which is really the map of all existence. It's like, it's just extraordinary, really. If you can understand this map that we're going to learn today, you can really, really understand the structure of almost anything, any process that we go through. All right, Mila, over to you.
Okay, great. Yeah, welcome everybody. It's interesting. It's snowing in New York on Yud Aleph Nisan. Good Yom Tov. Good Yom Tov, everybody. This is an amazing journey that the Rebbe is taking us. This is 75th year of the Rebbe's leadership. And as we all know, the Rebbe didn't really want to go into this business of being a Rebbe. And here we are, 75 years later. And interestingly, but 75 is many interesting things happen with this number. We know that when Avraham Avinu became a Jew, that's the whole Lech Lecha, and that's directly connect with the work that we're doing here, which is the work of Avodas HaMoichin, because in Parshas Lech Lecha, Hashem promised Avraham Avinu the land of 10 nations, which we are about to conquer. And we're doing it in an exceptionally peaceful way here. We don't even argue here. So that's definitely a very, very peaceful way. And B'ezrat Hashem, we're waiting for this amazing peaceful transfer of all this beautiful lands that we B'ezrat Hashem gonna own. Also came across that how old was Esther Hamalka when she went into Achashverosh's palace. For that's a very interesting transitional thing. She was also, according to most midrashim, she was 75 years old. So 75 definitely holds a big significance in the Jewish world. And yeah, we definitely, one of the ways of how Avraham Avinu became a Jew is that he crossed the river, Euphrates River. That's how he became Ivri, right? Comes from the word avar, la'avor, to cross over. And that's how we carry that name and that identity and that ability to transform our reality by realizing our true source, which is definitely rooted in the essence of Hashem. And by Hashgacha Pratis, this is all a big Hashgacha Pratis, because this is exactly what paragraph 17 is about. Okay, so we're gonna go right into it. Ready? Okay, let me just open the and it's amazing. It always amazes that we have 11 people in this room all the time. Yeah, that we are, by the way, on 11th month. If we start from Nisan, Teves is 11th month, and we are on 11th day. And this is the Rebbe's theme, right? The Rebbe is, theme 11. And you all the time, when you study the Rebbe's Sichos and Ma'amarim, the Rebbe is obsessed about 11. It's like, this 11th level, which is the Keser, which is above above the 10 spheres. And let's go right into it. Okay. Is it big enough?
No.
This better?
Yeah.
Yes, good.
Okay, let me just press my annotation thing. I don't know why, but this is like interesting. I all the time you lose where the annotation by Zoom. Okay. I got it. Okay. So Behina Yedua. And here it is known, Be'inyan Ehye Asher Ehye, right? Ehye Asher Ehye. In the idea of this very interesting way how Hashem identified himself to Moshe Rabbeinu. When Moshe Rabbeinu asked them, they're going to ask me, what's your name? And in the beginning, Hashem kind of avoided that. But then when Moshe pressed the issue, he's like, okay, Ehye Asher Ehye. I will be what I will be, or I am who I am. It's a very interesting way of identifying yourself. You could have said Elohim. I mean, Hashem has so many interesting names and so many interesting expressions. But for some reason, Hashem chose to express himself like that.
Yeah.
I will be what I will be. Yes.
Yeah, can I just give people a background in case it's not so clear? That this was at the burning bush when after Hashem told Moshe that he should go and approach Pharaoh and tell him that the Jewish people need to leave Mitzrayim. And Moshe says to him, who should I tell them is, who sent me? What name should I tell them? And that's when Hashem said, Ehye Asher Ehye. And, there's a Rashi on it and explains what that means. But really what we're going to look at here is really the Kabbalistic level of that.
Yeah, and interestingly, this is the only name that we know of, one of the famous names, that has this very interesting, if it would be just Ehye, okay, fine. But here it's Ehye Asher Ehye. It's a very interesting name, like I will be what I will be. Nobody says that, okay, because I will be. Okay, my name is I will be. Amazing. But here, it's like, it shows a specific yichud. It shows some kind of unification between one Ehye to the second Ehye, just by looking at these names. And it's actually one of the names of Hashem that cannot be erased. That's why we don't pronounce it, hey, the way it should be pronounced. It's we say K, and it's also in the future form. I will be.
Also, I don't know if it's found anywhere else other than here. It's not something that's found. Yud K Vav K is found all over the Torah. I may be wrong, but and Elohim, but this is one, and Kale, and most of the other names are all over the place. This one, you almost never see it. And I looked at the way that it's spelled is that it's an Aleph, a Hey, a Yud, and a Hey, which is also an unusual, we're used to the Yud and the Hey, but now you've got Aleph and Hey and Yud and Hey. So there's something very unusual about it. And the thing that Mila told me that kind of woke up my mind to it was that, in a sense, what is Moshe asking? He's saying, what aspect of you, Hashem, is going to take us out of Mitzrayim? This is the name that takes us out of Mitzrayim. We were talking about it before the class, in a sense, like how do you get out of your Mitzrayim? And so this is the key to getting out of Mitzrayim. And it's a name that's higher than Yud Kei Vav Kei, because Yud Kei Vav Kei is still within the Seder Histalshlut, because we know that the Yud is Chochmah. So that's already within the Seder Shtalshlut. Okay.
Yeah. And interestingly, but the Rashi there, I think it's important to look at it. Hashem said, I will be with them. Yeah, that's what Ekia means. And it says, Ekia, Asher Ekia, I will be with them to take them out of this galus. And also will take them out of all the future galus. And Moshe says, like, I cannot tell that to them. Like, they are in such a desperate situation. I'm not going to come and tell them, well, you're going to have more goluses while they're still in this golus. So if you follow the Pesukim, you'll see that when Hashem introduces who had sent him, he says, Ekia sent me. It doesn't say Ekia Asher Ekia sent me. So he was compassionate enough to Bnei Israel not to tell them that, guys, Hashem is going to redeem you of this golus, but there's going to be many more goluses going to happen to you, and he is also going to be there with you as well. And Hashem was fine with that. But as Neria said, we see that the imprint, the way Hashem introduces himself in terms of the redemption of Bnei Israel, and we know that, as it says, Ki meiteischa me'eretz Mitzrayim, right? Arena niflois, meaning the imprint that we received by Yetzias Mitzrayim it remains with us, even when we're going out of this galus, meaning it's the same pattern, it's the same system that Hashem sets out. And therefore, we spend so much time studying the Yetzias Mitzrayim. And a person might think, like, what's the big deal? Okay, so we went out. What this has to do with my life right now? But that's the Lech Lecha, right? In the Parshas Lech Lecha, Hashem lays the foundation to Avram Avinu that allows the Bnei Israel to go out of Mitzrayim, because in Parshas Lech Lecha, when he actually lets him know about the Golus Mitzrayim and the Geula and so on and so forth. So in a way, the ability to do Lech Lecha out of whatever confinement we find ourselves lays in this name of Hashem. So let's go further. And Rabbi Hillel makes a very interesting, it says, as we know, there is an idea of Eke Asher Eke, that the Shoresh, right, the roots of the second Eke is in the first Eke. We could just make a logical exactly. Eke Asher Eke, meaning the second Eke is dependent on the first Eke. Okay. And it is known that the first Aleph, that the first Eke, hu bebchinas pnimius hakeser hanikra atik, is the aspect of pnimius hakeser, which is called atik yomin. Okay, amazing. So we know that level by now, right? This is the pnimius of the crown. Pnimius of the crown is atik yomin. Atik yomin identifies with is the level of oneg, is the level of pleasure. Now he specifies, it's not just any, but we already know the Bina Liba. Bina Liba is Ekia. Great. And this is the aspect of Bina of Atik Yomin. The Ekia HaBeis, and the second Ekia, Hu B'Bchinas Bina, the Atzilus, is the aspect of Bina of Atzilus. Okay, this is the Bina that we are doing Iyun with. Okay, V'hainu, and which means Shebebina Shehu B'chinas Iyun. And which Bina? We're talking about Bina of Bina, which is the aspect of Iyun, canal, as it was said above. Umuvan Mimele Sheshoresh Abina Shebebina Hu B'chinas Keser de Bina. V'zeu B'derech Prat. And we see that the Shoresh of Bina is in the aspect of the Keser of Bina, which is in Derech Prat. Meaning, with everything what we know up until now, we all know that every orech is rooted in the omek. That's no, right? It's such a big klal in Chassidus that you really just need to engrave this, right? I'm waking you up and say, guys, tell me omek of Bina. You're gonna tell me the orech of Bina is rooted in omek of Bina. It's even the whole Basi Lagani Maimer is based on that notion. So it's a big rule in Chassidus. So that's exactly what he's saying over here, that the Bina umuvan mimela, and we automatically understand that the shorish of Bina is where? Bina of Bina is Omek. We know that, right? Is rooted where?
Sorry, Bina of Bina is Orech.
I'm sorry, Orech, exactly. Bina of Bina is Orech. It's rooted where? In Omek. What's Omek? Is Keser, right? So we just literally just need to be kind of, maybe, I don't know, you could maybe do a matching game. You know, maybe we could create some worksheets. You know how kids remember two levels that are matching, right? You just a memory game. You pick up Omek on one end, you pick up Keser on the other end, and you put these two cards aside, whatever. But we need to have in our mind automatic response that Omek of Bina is Keser of Bina, and it becomes the root for the Orech of Bina, which is Bina of Bina. I know it sounds like technical, but it's really not. You know, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll see how it's all connected. U'b'derech klal, and in general, b'bchinas Bina haklali sheshor sheb'pnimis hakeser. So now, derech klal, we could just say that Bina, the lower Bina, the Bina of Atzilus, is rooted in the Bina of Atik Yomin. But on a smaller scale and on a micro level, right, the Bina, the Orech of Bina, the Bina of Bina is rooted in the Keser of Bina. Okay, so there are two small Yichudim that he's sharing this with us. And that's all fine, because throughout, there is a rule that in Kedusha, all the levels, they include one into another. There's bittul of the kalim, that all kalim eventually merge into the inner flow, right? And they all become, it's called hiskalulus, right? They all become unified, okay? And this is one of the unifications that you actually see here. Okay, v'nimtza muvan l'maskil, and here, it is understood for the maskil, mikol hanal, right? So if you had come to this conclusions that he's going to state right now, you could put like a badge, I'm a maskil, right? I could understand a couple of cents. Okay, mikol hanal. What are we understanding? Sheshorish ha'iyun, that the root of iyun, I think by now we had come to this conclusion with all the information that was presented to us up until this point. Okay, anybody agrees with that? Disagreement? Lack of clarity?
Mila, I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if we shouldn't just stop here, because this is the end of this section, and just get people to do a short like worksheet on their own, not in groups, to just write Ekir, Asher Ekir, and to clarify how the first one is and what the second one is, just to write it for themselves.
Yeah, so let's do it.
And what I've done is I've put, for those of you who need the English, you can either use the English translation, or I've put the summary of this paragraph into the chat and also onto the WhatsApp group. So I'm going to just pause. Okay, so I just want somebody to share with me what they wrote, so that we know that you understand just the pshat of it. You don't have to understand the depths of it. So who would like to do that?
Nevia, I just went to the worksheet, okay, and I copied what was there. Okay, but it's how much I understand.
So the
I don't know.
the worksheet we're not doing. That's not what.
No. Excuse me. No, in the description of the paragraph.
Okay.
What is Ehyeh be'asher Ehyeh?
Okay.
That's what I did.
I mean the summary.
Okay.
Yeah,
the summary. Okay, great. So what do you understand about the first Ehyeh?
I kind of see that at the end, once I said that what the first Ehyeh is, and then the second Ehyeh is rooted in the first. I see really that it's rooted in the first, because at the level of the klal, it says Bina is in Pnim Aketer, which is, it goes back to the first Ehyeh.
Okay, so but let's just start. Let's do it step by step. What is the first egg here? What
What do you
which
mean? What is it?
the first egg here?
Which
is-
level first Ekia represents?
Pnimiut keter.
and that's correct. Which is what is Pnimiut HaKeter?
It's oneg. It's atik yomim is oneg.
And
Okay,
specifically which level?
Going deep.
Level of bina of artik yomim.
Great.
Excellent. Which we know is what? What is that? He doesn't say it there, but we should know by now that Bina of Atik Yomin is
no?
Oneg, no? Or is that what you?
it's Bina
No.
of Oneg, but we have another name for it. It's what we've been learning.
Avanta de Liba.
Avanta de Liba or Bina Liba. Okay, so that's something maybe you need to understand. So he's showing us that the first Ekia is, if you work all the way down into the details, is Bina Liba or Avanta de Liba.
Uh-huh.
Okay, now what is the second Ekia?
Bina of atzilut.
Okay, it's Bina of Atzilut, and specifically which part of Bina of Atzilut?
Bina of bina.
That's correct. And what do we know Bina of Bina is called?
Iyun.
Excellent. So now he says, we'll just make our own yichud. He says that the second ekia is rooted in the first ekia. So what does that mean?
Yeah, because it takes us at the level of klal. It says it's bina in pnimiut keter, so it really goes back to it.
It's telling us that Iyun, it's telling us something we know, but he's showing us through this ekia she'ekia that Iyun is rooted in Bina Liba.
In bina liba.
Yeah, it just became so clear.
Okay. So he's just showing us through another. The problem is, in a way, he's saying it's well known, meaning this is what I think. Like he's trying to give us an example that we would know, but it's an example we don't know. So in a way, it causes us more confusion. But if we go a little bit deeper and we understand this whole notion of ekia she'ekia, then he's opening something up that's very beautiful, that's showing us that this whole Iyun process, which is rooted in Bina Liba, is connected to this extraordinary level of Hashem, of Ekia She'ekia, that takes us out of Mitzrayim. Meaning that it, in order to go out of Mitzrayim, you have to go beyond nature. And in a way, what it's saying, what I hear it saying, is that this Iyun, which is connected to Bina Liba, is taking us out of Mitzrayim, is taking us out of the Seder Istalshlut. When you start to engage with this level of Iyun, you're entering into a journey that takes you out of Mitzrayim.
So are you saying this is the understanding of the heart? And this is what takes us out of our Mitzrayim?
So yes, in
Because
the way,
this is the
Hila, yes.
Yeah. Because yes, it is, because this is the level that was, let's imagine like this. What could take us out of Mitzrayim? Something which is what Mitzrayim? Mitzrayim is a structure, right? Any structure has its limitation. Just think about it. What do you think could take us out of Mitzrayim? Another structure? Another limitation? That's not going to be a true redemption, right? So Hashem, in the system that Hashem created, right, he provides the root for redemption, which is higher than any structure. The root for redemption is the level of Bina Liba, right? Which is the felt oneg, which is higher than any limitation. At that level, Hashem has no limitation, even self-imposed limitation, because we all know that Hashem did something which is called tzimtzum. What's tzimtzum? It's self-imposed limitation. Hashem decided, you know what? I'm going to limit my unlimitedness. So Eke Asher Eke is the level which is higher than even that limitation. Right? So then Hashem is giving us the seeds by which he's going to pull us out, the rope, right? And what is this rope is this level. That on one hand, we feel it. It's murgash, it's bina. And that's the beauty of it. Because Hashem doesn't want us to dissolve in him. He was bored of this. He's like, no, I want you to exist. I want you to be your yesh, you, your full existence. Okay? Meaning you are murgash, you are felt. Okay? However, you are fully united with me. So this is the level of Bina Liba. That on one hand, it's felt. It's not the kachab, meaning the keser and chachma of Atik Yomin, where it's not felt, it's hidden. It's felt. We have our full expression, but we are free of any limitation.
And the amazing thing is that this level of Bina Liba is accessible to us through this very low beginning of something that really an 11-year-old, a 10-year-old can do. Eon, you put in the effort and you focus, and you will, get. Then you can climb the ladder. And it's extraordinary, really, that Hashem created the structure, that this very high level is connected to this really very yesh level, very basic level.
It is. And again, we don't need das for this. Remember that. We don't have to be extraordinary connected and who knows what, and have das and have super connection and insight and awareness and all these lofty things that das brings into the table. We don't need that. You literally could be on the outside, which is Bina of Bina, and have access to this, Pnimius HaKeser, which is like, whoa.
Okay, there's some questions
So
here.
I just had so what, can you help me on this? What threw me when I was reading it the first time with you is all of a sudden it brings in Atzilus. Now I don't remember this the Olamus coming up at all in this discussion.
Yes, that's true. And remember, Gitti, look next to Atzilus what he says. Okay, not Atzilus, before that.
The Bina.
It says over here, Umuvan mimele sheshoresh habina shebabina hu bebchinas keser of bina zeu bederech prat, ובדרך כלל בבחינת בינה הכללי ששורש בפנימיס הכסר הכללי, right? ונמצא מובן למשכיל שמכל הנ"ל ששורש העיון הוא בבחינת ובנתא דליבה, right? So this is very important to know. Now, when he said that it's in a shorish of Bina of Atzilus, for sure, because where Bina actually gets into our perception, because we think for some reason that Atzilus is somewhere outside of us. Not. All these levels that we are talking is within us. So Bina of Atzilus is the beginning of the Yesh in the creation. Okay, from Bina of Atzilus is going to be Malchus of Atzilus. We're going to learn it later on. And Malchus of Atzilus is going to create everything. So he's going to provide a lot of Yechudim to us between Bina to Malchus, because Bina is the mother, Malchus is the daughter. So we're going to see this Yechudim constantly happening. There are many Yechudim. There's a Yechud between Chochma and Oneg. There's a Yechud between Bina and Kes and Bina of Keser, right? So there's always these little interesting Yechudim, but these are little threads that he's throwing to us, and we are trying to, weave our, beautiful cloth. You know what I mean? Like, but it's true. What else is he going to say? Generally, Bina? No, he's adding a prat. It's a Bina of Atzilus. Why Bina of Atzilus? Because in relationship to Keser, the first world that comes in is Atzilus.
Well, that's the answer. I mean, we answered it in the first sentence that you was, why not Chachma? Why not something else? Because Bina is the first stage of creation.
Beautiful.
And then what he's doing is that he's climbing up the ladder of Bina.
Exactly. He's making this yichudim of Bina, you know, Bina in Keser, within Bina, and then Bina in a klali, you know, in the general of, you know, Bina of Atik. But he's making that yichud, and that's beautiful. I mean, what it means to us specifically, practically, I think by now, you know, as Neria wrapped it, you know, our iyun, this is the practical. Now we could take something very practical to us, right? We usually say no practical, but this is what it is. Now the practical bechein of what we have learned up until now, we pretty much answered all our questions before we're going to go on the swift of a little bit understanding it deeply, which is in the second part of this paragraph, is to understand that we are doing basic iyun. This is what we're triggering. We are triggering basically the essence of our neshama.
So, but basically, I want to make the point. It's not as someone said the word practical as opposed to abstract. We're really dealing here with the germ of creation, which is Bina Datsilas, and then climbing to transcendent level, which is beyond that. So it's not as if it's like actually practical and concrete. It's the beginning.
Well, it is very practical because you now doing iyun, we all now doing iyun, we are triggering this level on it constantly. Like it's, have you ever went rope climbing? I used to do
Mila, please. The level, yes, our iyun is triggering the which level again?
The Bina of Bina triggering the Bina of Atik. That's it. The Bina Liba. We're triggering
the Bina Liba.
Exactly. And look, did you ever go to rope climbing? I don't know if anybody went. I love it. It was my favorite one. You have this big, thick rope and you climb over it, right? As a child, I love doing it. Now, the rope constantly going to move all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so your slight move moves the whole thing up there. Right, so that's why the rope is an amazing. Even we say Yaakov is chevel nechalasa, right? It's a famous saying. Why it uses the word chevel, because that's what it is. When you make a slightest move on the bottom, the toppest point will shake. This is the beautiful mashal of understanding of a yichud, meaning you shake a little bit on the bottom, even during your climbing. So your rope could be an exceptionally long rope, right? Nobody said that the rope is short. But when you pull the rope, you literally pull the highest point at all time. There's absolutely no way how to climb a rope without constantly pulling the top. That's why the ceiling has to be reinforced when you install this type of equipment. Because that point that's going to hold it to the ceiling will have come with every move is going to be triggered to come off.
This is the connection up with the Rebbe.
The essence for sure. Anything, any slightest move you do in Bina of Bina will constantly pull your Ekye, your first Ekye, which is the Bina Liba.
Okay, now I have another question. This is maybe going to become evident.
Yeah, I think Nechama raised the hand. Can we? Yeah, Nechama, you want to go for it? You just get
yeah, thanks. I just what it keeps coming down to for me is that iyun is rooted in Bina Liba, and that's the heart, that's the center, that's our goal. So for me, I don't know, everybody's brain works different. All these details kind of make me dizzy because we're going to end up there. So maybe I'm looking for a shortcut, but is there a way to do iyun with just understanding about Bina Liba, and that's where we want to go without going through all these twists and turns?
You're jumping into the 5th chapter, Nechama. Yeah, I'll tell you what it is. And we're going to do a shortcut there if you want to go there, because, I'm not going to keep you till 5th chapter, which is going to be probably in a year and a half from now. But if we're going to continue with the pace that we're going on. But the Rebbe says there something very, very interesting. I don't have a book here on me. Otherwise, I would just read you from the actual thing. He says, whenever we do iyun b'derech klal, okay, the iyun b'derech klal, we understand the idea, but Hashem is far from him. Hashem seems to be far from him. Derech prat is what will bring your awareness closer to Hashem. What does this mean? Meaning, what's the goal? What is the goal of us doing iyun? We want to do what? We want to become intellectuals. We want to do a doctorate degree. What's the goal? For me, I want to get Hashem. I want to reach Hashem. This is my goal while I'm going into it. Okay, so now, who cares about all these levels, right? You think like it's so counterintuitive to think that I need these levels. I'm just going to make a yichud. Hashem is everything. Everything is Hashem. But when I have that intellectually understood, and this is the key word here, Hashem is still very far from me. My 5-year-old student knows Hashem is here. Hashem is there. Hashem is truly everywhere, right? And then he could just go and steal another candy. Meaning it's an intellectual concept. Yeah, for sure. He knows that Hashem is everywhere. You wake up in the middle of the night, you could say, Sruli, where's Hashem? He will say everywhere. That's an intellectual perception. But does he really, on a daily basis, in the pratim, in the details of his life, feels the presence of Hashem? Absolutely not. Okay, so when we only intellectually grasp something, we can coexist with the opposite of Hashem. Now, Derech Prat completely breaks that pattern. In Derech Prat, there's absolutely no way, okay, that you're going to break your head in all these details, and it's overwhelming, and you're like, what the heck is going on? Why do I need this? Who needs this? Blah, 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 and all that. It's a legit questions. But what Derech Prat does, Derech Prat, that's specifically what Bina is about. Bina is about details. Bina is not about, I want to buy a house. What kind of a house you want to buy? Where the kitchen is going to be? What your doorknobs are going to look like? Okay, what tiles you're going to put on? Which shades are going to be, and. But you know what? All these matter so much, because if I'm just going to give you a house, you're going to look at it, you're going to say, I don't like it. It's actually happened with one millionaire in Cranites. He bought a house, okay? He did the decorations and everything else in the house, etc. The wife entered the house. She said, I don't like it. And she did not move in, okay? And this house became something else. They use it for different things. Now, because she was not part of it. She's like, I don't have oneg in this house. It's a nice house, I agree, but it's not my house, because my house has to be with details the way I see it that bring oneg to me. Okay, so when we skip the details, we're just going to be left with a metzias that's not personalized to me. Okay, like I cannot just buy you a sheitel, right? Can I just offer you to buy a sheitel that I like? No way, right? And women are very particular. Men could wear black hat. There's only 5 options in Barcelona. Okay, they're okay with it because they live on the level of Chachma. On Chachma, you have a black hat, it's good. You're good. You have white shirt, it's good enough. But women are not like that. Women have a style, and they wear this and they wear that. And it's like a whole detailed expression where men have no concept about, right? They have no idea why a woman would open 75 dress wardrobe and said, I have nothing to wear, right? Because they don't have concept like that, because they live in a klal, and chachma is a klal. Bina possesses all the pratim. So we cannot skip the pratim here. I know it sounds like why we need it. It's like a man asking why you need, I don't know, 75 dresses, because he can't grasp it. So now when we approach study of Chassidus from a Chachma perspective, you're right. You'll have the klal, but Hashem is going to be far from you. Yeah, the point is to get Hashem. The point is that I feel in every detail of my life a presence of Hashem, where I don't feel the separateness, right? As few days in Tanya, Hashem was talking about that the main issue with Klippa, right, is that it feels separate from Hashem. In Sitra de Kedusha, everything is bottled to Hashem. So it's like, we this balance where I stick to the klal and how I fill in my pratim. It's very, very essential. And the simcha comes through bina, remember? The simcha comes through bina. The simcha is through pratim. I feel joyous when I get things. And in order for me to get things, I need to go through the pratim. I don't know, Nechama, if I'm answering your question.
I don't know. I mean, I think of like I have a car and I need the car to get me places where I need to go. But when it comes to understanding in the motor, how the different parts of the motor, that's not my thing. And I leave that to the auto mechanic. And I can make wonderful use of the car without studying auto mechanics. So, yeah, I guess what you're saying, it just makes me think that maybe it's what, my avoda to challenge my brain to get into these details when I tend to want to stay away from them and just get to the heart of the matter.
Okay, so when you look at the car, that's excellent that you're bringing, because I'll tell you, you thinking of iyun as means, right?
As what?
Which as means through which you reach your destination. It's like a car, right? Your destination, and you go through it. That's when you're talking about a car. I agree with you. Nobody needs to become a mechanic. Now, when we go further into a relationship, you see, because Hashem is not just a car. Hashem is Chaim, he's the one who's Chayei HaChaim, is the most living thing that out there in the world. Now, when we want to have a relationship with somebody else, right? In a relationship with our husbands, that would be the closest. The more details you know about them, the closer you feel to them. Okay? So for some reason, Hashem created this very complex structure. This is what he's about. So he says, you want to know me? Because it's a mitzvah yidiyah selakus. Because you want to know me, this is who I am. So by us going through these pratim, it's like knowing what coffee your husband likes, how he likes his salmon prepared, what spices he likes, what he doesn't like. And listen, some husbands are exceptionally particular. My husband, for example, knows the difference if I make mashed potatoes when I put it in cold water versus in hot water. It's a different taste. I don't feel it. I'm not so refined in my taste, but then some people, they feel it. So if I want to prepare something for him the way he likes it, right, I'm going to be mindful, right? And it's vice versa. It's a relationship. You give and you take. So when we want to know Hashem, and Hashem is so complex in a way. On one hand, he's an exceptionally simple. On the other hand, he created this whole complex self-expression system that he created, right? If I really want to be close to him, this is the road. So it's like, imagine a husband will look at his wife and says, you're just too complicated. It's like, you're too complicated to understand. I just want to love you, and that's it. But it doesn't work like that, right? Because the woman is like this, before she gives birth, she's like that. On her 7th month, she's like that. And there are so many pratim in the relationship. We would get offended if a husband would talk this way. Okay, you're just too complicated for me to understand. Bye, right? Like they come up with this very cute picture. A manual came out about a woman, and it's a book this thick, and the guy is like reading a manual to understand the woman, right? Why do you think the guys laugh like that? Simply because, yeah, it's not an easy thing to understand a woman. She says one thing, she means another thing, and it's for them, it's very difficult. So when we want to understand God, God is like a woman, basically. Yeah, it's very complex. It's not just, okay, here I am. He says, Eki Asher Eki, I am who I am, but that I am who I am, it's like endless volumes of books. It's like Ein Sof. He says it very openly. He's not hiding it. He says, I'm Ein Sof. So it's Ein Sof details.
Look, the other thing, Mila, to add to that and to speak to what Nechama is saying is, like in other relationships, but in a special way, as you're getting to know Hashem, you're getting to know yourself, because Hashem created us with his own structure. He created us in his image. So as you're getting to know all these details in the process of studying, it's knowing yourself and knowing Hashem. So you can say, okay, I don't want to know myself. Who can say that? So there's this extraordinary kind of interconnectedness. And the one other thing that I would say, like Nechama, I also feel that sometimes, especially when it came to this Ekia She Ekia, it's like, but you already told us that. So I know that Eon is rooted in Bina Liba. Why are you coming with more details? And then I came to understand, look, I looked into Ekia She Ekia, I looked all over the internet in English. There's not so much, but it then tells you something. He's trying to enrich your understanding of it. That's what's the details. But that's not what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say is something that he teaches us in a later chapter, is that with all learning, what you do is you start with the big picture, which is the klal. You go into the details, which is the prat, and then you come back out to the big picture and you put the details into the big picture. And you keep going doing this. And he does it for us. That's why I showed you that map of the first 14 chapters. That's a very klal. That's a big klal. So you can see the whole picture. Then you go into the details and you put it into the klal. And so your mind is literally expanding and contracting like this. And that's how you learn. That's how you learn anything. It's a rule in learning. You need to see the big picture. You go into the details, you put the details back into the big picture. Out and in, out and in. It's just, that's the only way to really learn anything. Think about something that you need to learn in your life. And if you were to teach it to somebody, you could teach it to them in a very general way, but for them to really utilize it, they would need to learn the details. I mean, you don't want to go to a doctor who knows very general principles. You want him to know a lot of details, which is why they have specialists. The problem with Western medicine is that you have people who are specialized in particular details, but they lose sight of the klal. So you go to a doctor who just deals with the kidneys, but he doesn't necessarily look at where the kidneys are interacting with the other organs. And that's really where the limitation of Western medicine is. It's only prat and not enough klal. And so you go to something like, Chinese medicine, which is much more involved with the klal and how things work together. And maybe could be missing some of the pratim, I don't know, but that's just an example that came to mind. Mila, are we going to go forward to this?
One
Yeah, we
second.
need
Hold
to-
on, remember?
Yeah.
You put me on hold.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Yes,
let's go.
Titi.
So first of all, apologies. I didn't realize that someone was asking to ask a question. I jumped the gun there. But you know what's so interesting? That the question I want to ask is interestingly related to this discussion. And I do want to comment something about what Nechama said also. So I wanted to ask you if you have any commentary, why the last piece we read after the Rebbe's, the Mittler Rebbe is giving us a all the clear terminology, then it suddenly ends with Baderech Klal, which is a little different, a little more general, definitely more general, and Baderech Prat, which is also a little more. In other words, why is he summing it up? I'm sure there's a reason for it, and maybe it's going to come up in the very near future, but I thought maybe he'll give me some commentary to help me understand that. Maybe now is not the right time. But also it's very interesting, I have to share this, but Nechama, who just had this whole discussion about why can't we just be more general? So I once shared a breakout room with Nechama, and we were discussing that she has she just sees the general big picture. So I was saying, in contrast to that, I'm kind of more I'm coming more from details. I was asking the Chava to help me out. I had the story that I wanted to shrink it into a small paragraph. It was a story with a lot of parts to it. I said, maybe Nechama, you'll hear the story, you'll be able to kind of reduce it to a much simpler level. But it's also interesting that how we all listen to the same material, and the expression in Hebrew is ein de'asen shavos, that we all have such different ways of our minds work so differently. So this is an example. But you gave such a beautiful answer. So for me, it worked very well because I appreciate details. But I just want to add one more example, if I may. And I use it when I give my Simcha course, and I say, why do we have to know so much about Simcha? Because we're just coming to a time when Simcha will be a major part of our life. We never had to study so much about it. So let's say nowadays we have GPS, but in the days when we didn't have GPS, we used to write your directions down on paper. And so all you had to know maybe is like, go stay on the 95 for the next 30 hours. That's all you need to know. It's very general. It can take you miles, millions of miles, thousands of miles. But then when you come to the destination the closer you get, the more details you get. When you see this mobile gas station, you make a right, and then you make a left, and it becomes all the they start telling you so many details that would never tell you for the main part of the trip. So when you get close to a destination, and we're coming to a time that we're going to be living with in Hashem's inner Tainug, on that level of Tainug, suddenly these details become relevant. They don't become details, they actually become very important pieces of information. So just adding that little muscle.
Yeah, I just want to jump in really quickly because I know we've taken up a lot of time, but both what Mila and Naria said were really helpful to me. But the shift in my mind happened when Mila was talking about a relationship. If you love someone, you care about them, you want to know all the details. And I realized that where I was coming from was what's comfortable for me. What do I need to know in order to get where I want to go? So there's a lot of the I in it. And my nature, yeah, I could do without the details. But when I started to think about it, if a loved one, if I needed to know something about them, if someone close to me wrote a book, even if it was on a subject that I wasn't interested, of course I would want to read it. So I just want to mention that but putting it in the context of a relationship, an intimate relationship with Hashem, it makes sense.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah, right. Great. Amazing. Yay. Let's move on. Oh my gosh.
Right.
I'm debating. Should we move on or not?
I'm also wondering.
Let's vote. Should we move on or not? Because I'll tell you, we officially should be finishing in 10 minutes. But then we're entering into this whole interesting discussion where the Rebbe is taking us into understanding how do we move from one ekye into the next ekye? How does it happen? Okay, meaning we just right now discussed there is one rooted in the other. Okay, mazel tov, beautiful. Meaning we're discussing two yesh. Ekye is a yesh, and ekye is also a yesh. Beautiful. Now, how are we putting into the context?
Mila, how can you say that the first ekye is a yesh? What is that? That doesn't make any sense to us at this point.
No, not at this point. I understand, but this is like a metzius. It's something is happening. Ekye, I am. I will be. Well, if I will be, that means I am, right? And I was, right? Then there is a second ekye. It's also a yesh. Okay, it's I'm there. Putting it in the perspective, of really going into Derech Prat, dividing what is between each of these and what each of these levels represent with everything what we have learned up until now. Well, he wasn't Stam giving us the 4 levels of Chachma. It wasn't just Stam he was giving us. You see, by now, truly, he could just pat himself on the shoulder. Yay, I did a great job. I explained to you why Bina is more important than Chachma. That Bina is rooted high. And we could be okay, fine. But then he says, no. Let me explain you what happened to Chachma. Where is Chachma is rooted? Okay? And he wants to bring us into this 4 levels of existence. Right now, that's definitely gonna, as we studying the Kito Chassidus, definitely gonna enhance our understanding and relationship with almost any other mimer that you're gonna be touching. It's like a map, really explaining which of the levels belongs to what levels of existence. So he's bringing this awareness of 4 levels of existence. Now, the question is whether we should go into it or not.
Here's what I would suggest. You want to stop sharing for a moment? Here's what I suggest. You can take it or you can find another way to do it. I suggest that maybe you just show the first slide and explain in other terms how these 4 levels work. And then next week we'll go into the text and connect it to everything so that we just can have a discussion about these 4 levels in a general way.
And maybe what we could do is also, we already uploaded by Hashgacha Pratis the worksheet. How about you will just do the worksheet by reading the text on your own? And we've done this already. I know you're like, oh my gosh, why are you doing this to me? And then we'll come back and we'll read the text together. How does that sound?
You're talking about now?
No, not now. At home. This is going to be the homework. Meaning
That's
the worksheet is going to be the homework. Now we could just generally just look at the slide and work off that.
Okay.
Sounds good.
It's happening? Yeah, we're good?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Did you post the worksheet or you will?
Posted in the group.
In the WhatsApp.
4 levels of existence.
Yeah, 4 levels.
Worksheet of the summer, 'cause
That's
I
the
don't get stuff on Google Drive, but
It's on the WhatsApp.
okay.
You mean on that same thing that starts with Eke?
No.
I just on the WhatsApp, I just have the summary for paragraph 17.
Yeah, so before that, Mila posted, this
Okay,
will be the worksheet we're working with today, and she posted an image.
With the boxes, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me share the okay, so he's gonna jump into this very interesting thing, which is 4 levels of existence, right? There is Yesh Amiti, which is a true Yesh.
Like a true existence,
A true existence, the ultimate true existence, which is Yesh Amiti.
which is Hashem.
Yeah.
Okay.
We also have Ayin Hakolol B'Yesh. From that, meaning the goal of Yesh Amiti is to create Yesh Nifrad, is to create this level, a separate Yesh. Because Hashem, wants to have this world. He has a taiva, Nit'ava LaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? He has a taiva to create this world. Now, so he creates this world with an illusion. Okay, he creates this world that the Makabel has an illusion that it exists outside of God. And this is we all have, right? Anybody like, okay, this is just like an everyday reality that most people, unless you're a tzaddik, really has. So, and he's very successful in that, right? That's a great job Shabbos, in really doing it. So the system, how he does it, it's going through the two levels of ayin. Okay, meaning there is yesh and yesh. There's ayin in between, right? So this ayin is what kind of helps that illusion of separateness to exist. Now you might think like, okay, who cares? Well, I understand, because this system works in almost any transformative work that you're ever going to do. The system works in Yetzias Mitzrayim. The system works in literally anything what you want to do, because the macro system works in micro as well. Okay, that's just how Hashem created the world, that there's always yichudim, there's always connections. So understanding this principle, how yesh amiti creates yesh nifrad, we will be able to do our leaps in between. The quantum leap that everybody talks about goes through the same system. Okay, how yesh nifrad moves to yesh amiti. Okay, how we move between one yesh and another yesh. So now there are two levels here. On the level number 2, there's a level which is called ayin hakolol b'yesh. This is a level of ayin, but it's ayin the way it's yet being connected to the yesh amiti. Okay, then after that there's a third level, which is ayin makor leyesh. It's an ayin that becomes the source for a new yesh to exist. Okay, and that becomes the yesh nifrad, and then yesh nifrad emerges. Now, anything, like literally every dipping in the mikveh pretty much brings us through these all levels of any renewal that we want to have in our life is going to go through this, you want to call it paradigm, whatever you want to call it. It's just, this is 4 levels of existence. Now, I just, very quickly created this. For some reason, an image that came to me was something of this, okay, just give me a minute, please. Where, like, this, the sand watch, where this is the upper part is yesh amiti, the lower part is yesh nifrad, but it goes through this intermediate stages, which is 2 stages of the ayin. And if we look b'derech prat, we see that there is a level that more connected to the upper, and then there is line that's more connected to the lower. Okay, you don't need to go through, through this. I'm just giving some visuals that could, help you understand how we move from one existence into the next, how we transition through this, and why this is important. Because through this, he's going to show us how it's all connected. Okay. It's like right here, right? So this is going to show us all these levels, which we already know. Okay. We're just going to put it all into these beautiful boxes because we already know what's Bina of Atik, Bina Liba. We already know what's Atzmos Haratzon, right? We already know, Chachma of the Ratzon. We already know of the level of Pele and Aleph. We already know about the Yud of Chachma. We already know also of Bina, right? So all these levels we all know. Okay, all levels, okay. All levels we already know. And all what we need to do is pretty much match them into this understanding, yesh amiti, ayin hakolol b'yesh, ayin makor leyesh, and yesh nifrad. Okay, why we need to do that? Because it will help us understand ekya asher ekya better. How one ekya okay, is connected with another Ekya. Okay, and that's going to be, Bezrat Hashem, we're going to be doing this, the other slide. As you can see, this man is climbing, right? And he's reaching, you know, the first Ekya. How we making that shift from yesh nifrat, from feeling our separateness, into a true existence from Hashem. Okay, how are we making that leap? And anyway, it's all in the text, and we're not going to go into it because it's a lot of details. But I think what we could do is, I've shared this slide with you, okay, and this would be the worksheet to do today. But what we're going to do is, you're going to do it at home. So just fill in the boxes of what it is, and now it's all in the text. So if you could just have this open, you could, you know, definitely create something on the paper yourself. And as you read the text, just put it in there. This is how I create my work. It's like I literally just read the text, and I just, you know, with my right hand, my left hand points in the book, and my right hand writes wherever it needs to write. And then, you know, you might do a mistake, you might misplace, you know, so just print few of them so you could actually have.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
It's not really a question, but anyways, first of all, the visual was terrific. Really well, really inspired. And I
Which
just
one? The sandwich?
the hourglass, whatever you call it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I just happened to be looking through some box and found some notes on Shurim that I'd written, so it's right in front of me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have thought of it. But you know, the expressions that we encounter in other Mamorim, like Matzah Rishain and Metzias Bilti, Metzias Nimtza, these are all different ways of describing the way of Hashem coming from being completely Helen and then filtering into existence and some being available for us. Are there parallels between these?
For sure. That's why
Obviously.
Yichud is called Kitu Chassidus, and the Rebbe quotes in Basi Lagani of this year, Shara Yichud of the Mittel Rebbe.
So would you be able to point to and say, oh, this is Matzah Rishon, this is Messias built-in Nimtza, whatever, man built-in Nimtza.
There are some levels we did not study, because in Basi Lagani, Rebbe points out to 3 levels before the Tzimtzum, which is called Yecholis, and that's already chapter 10 in Shara Yichud, which is much later on. So I guess with what we have, with the exposure we had in the first chapter from, we could definitely point to many of it, you know, but please understand that as detailed as the first chapter looks like, it's still derech klal, okay? It's still derech klal compared to how detailed it's a little bit later on.
Oh my goodness.
It's your mind, because he's not telling you what he's teaching you in 10th chapter, right? He's not telling this to you now. It's like, it's coming slowly. It's like, you know, it's like being pregnant, right? You're not carrying a 9-month-old baby in the first month of pregnancy. It develops, right? So in the beginning, the baby has only, I don't know, is only 2, whatever, it's nothing. Pretty much, right? It's only 1, and then it adds a little bit more details, and then there's a heart, and then there's this, and then there's that, and that's how things develop, right? They don't just appear like, okay, like that. So the same thing is in our mind. When our mind, actually, you know, in my birthing course, I found a very interesting research why women's brain during pregnancy shrinks. Right, we all, I mean, and it's a very common sense, like you forget things during pregnancy, you don't know what's going on, it's like you feel a little bit off. Interesting research, why the women's brain shrink. So during pregnancy, and it happens through every pregnancy, that the mind shrinks in order to add additional baby there, and then it expands with that baby in mind. You understand what I mean? The mind, the brain goes into the state of ayin during the pregnancy while she is developing the baby. And then once the baby is born, her mind slowly goes into the state of yesh with that baby in the brain program. Yeah, it's for me, it was like this wow experience. It's like, it's phenomenal. Why am I telling this? Is that when we develop, we add one prat at a time. And if you have a large family of 8, 10, 12, 15 kids, and somebody who just got married gets overwhelmed, how are you handling 15 kids? Well, 15 kids didn't just appear on the first day of your marriage. Every kid was a development, and you had 9 months to prepare for that detail, a very important detail in your life. Okay, so we shouldn't get overwhelmed, because a mother who has 15 kids, if she healthy, I'm talking about both emotionally and everything, and she's nurtured, she's not overwhelmed. Yeah, like everybody knows this amazing family that I heard amazing things about her. Schneerson from Kfar Chabad, they have 19 kids. And everybody who knows her, she's like the most chill lady in the world. Like having 19 kids and Shabbosim and everything else. If people are organized and they, do the pratim in order, there's even time to take a nap Friday afternoon. With 19 kids, I don't know if that happens, but I guess not everybody is as organized as that. But yeah, like it's what I'm trying to say is that we shouldn't feel overwhelmed. Like, oh my gosh, we're going to learn 10 things in a year from now. Yeah, it will come. But right now we are dealing with this. How many levels, Naria? We have like 9 levels, more or less, we're working with. Not even. These are the terminology. We're getting familiar with them. And we're slowly putting them into bigger picture, as you could see, like is adding a little bit more perspective to us. And that's it's going to be a slow process. We're going to add one limb at a time.
But I have to say that I feel like today I did a whole 9-month pregnancy, because I glanced at that paragraph late last night, and I was so daunted and like gulp. I said, how am I ever going to understand what this is? It was so abstruse. It looked hopeless. And then you just explained it, and now it's like we acquired it.
Yeah, good. So B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to give birth to a healthy baby. Right? It doesn't have to be 9 months. In the Geula, it's not going to be 9 months.
Everything is.
We have a 9-month of gestational period. But in the Geula, we're going to have 6 babies at how many days? I don't know what's going on there.
Everything is going to be accelerated, and already now it's everything accelerated.
So you see, now you had 9 months of pregnancy in one day.
Sure.
Mila, I'm a little bit tempted, but I'm not sure if, when I was also not so clear about this ayin yesh yesh ayin. I mean, yesh ayin ayin yesh. And then, you explained it to me a little bit more, and I came up with this understanding based on Yetziat Mitzrayim. Would it be useful to share it, or do you think it would
please. I think it's amazing. The more we're going to give, I think it's going to be easier for everybody to understand that. I think every time we do it, we get it differently.
So can you just share the first slide, and then I'll speak to it, because this is what I understood, not the way we're going to be learning it, but just as a model for all kinds of things, which is that first of all, you have, say, the Yesh HaNifrad. So I'm going to go from down up. So I understood that, say, for example, you could say the Yesh HaNifrad is Mitzrayim. It's a place where, you're imprisoned, you feel separate, etc., etc. Now, how do you go out of Mitzrayim? So we see, because these are the passions we're dealing with at the moment. So there's a process. The Am Yisrael went out of Mitzrayim. So they went to the next level. They went partially into the Midbar. They went to an ayin. But that ayin is still connected to Mitzrayim. Like this first level of ayin, how do we know it's still connected? Because there was a report that went back to Paro that the people don't seem to be going anywhere. They caught in the desert. They don't have a destination. And Paro understood from that, oh, wow, I still have power over them. They haven't completely left yet. And so Paro, I mean, Hashem hardened his heart, but Paro, when he heard that they were like in this place of not completely going out of Mitzrayim, he chased after them. And then the Jewish people were forced to go through this next level of ayin, which is, for me, I'm just saying that it's like the Yam Suf, was that in order to split the Yam Suf, they couldn't just be running away from the Egyptians. They had to be moving towards a goal. And that's what this second level of ayin is. It's the ayin that's included in the next level of where you're going. So if you're just running away from something, you're still connected to it. But the moment you begin to have a goal that you're moving toward, then you're entering this new level of ayin hakalul b'yesh, the ayin that is connected to where you're going, not where you're running away from. So this level of ayin is connected to where you want to go, which was Har Sinai. So Har Sinai then becomes the Yesh Amiti. So that's why I understood. My question was why there need to be two levels of ayin. And then I understood the first level of ayin is still connected to the place that you're moving away from. And you need to then shift to where am I going toward?
Yeah, very good. Yeah,
And
good.
you get that? So this is just a general application of how this yesh, ayin, yesh could work in our psyche or in our lives. And to me, it helped just make sense of it. And then it didn't feel so daunting. So I hope that, you can look at situations in your own life where, you think that very often we get to the level of the first ayin and we think we're free, but no, there has to be that deeper level of bitul, which is about moving forward, not just
interesting. You bringing this up. What really rings in me, and I hope I'm not going to overwhelm everybody, but there is a kavana for going into the mikvah for men and women. It doesn't matter, right? When we want to purify ourselves from whatever else we engaged in, whether it's tumas meis or whatever that might be, is we're also going through that stage, right? Where we're going to the mikvah, the floor of the mikvah represents the Shem Adnai, right? The name of Hashem Adnai. And that's pretty much Malchus. It's the way a person is exhibiting himself at the moment, which is the Malchus. This is what it is. It's a Metzias. It's Yesh. This is what his Yesh is, or her Yesh is. Now, in order for the purification to take place, you need to dip into the mikvah. Okay? So these are the four walls of the mikvah. It's Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's the potential, right? In order to draw a purification, a person needs to fully immerse in the potential. But interestingly, a person doesn't become tahar unless he re-emerges, right? That goal, that vision of who you are. Okay, you're not that, what you were before. That's why you're going into the mikvah in the first place. Because if a person's yesh was okay, then he wouldn't be in a state of tumah that he needs to purify himself. So the fact that he needs mikvah, he needs the purification. So that purification, that's why he needs to tap into his potential. But if there's no re-emerging from the water, so the space between the head and between the water, that's where the new existence could reemerge, right? And that's the name Ekya, actually. It's from the Baal Shem Tov. It was phenomenal when I read that. I was like, wow, that's the Ekya. Ekya is the ability, it's what exactly you're renewing into. Because the goal is not to dissolve in Yud Kivav and be nothing and stop existing. So let's say a person had a particular character trait that he wants to get rid of. So what replaces that? So who are you? So you need to identify who you are. Okay, it may not be perfect, but compared to the level where you now, this is going to be an upgrade. Now, in a day from now, you need to toivel again. That's going to be your new upgrade. But a person has to have an identity. It's interesting, but because the purification is when the head reemerges from the water, meaning that new existence is now taking into place. And it's literally going through this yesh into ayin, into yesh again. I guess the decision of who you want to become, how exactly that, that differentiates between the two levels of ayin, would be amazing to think about. I guess the decision to purify, it's the first ayin. Is this dissatisfaction from the previous state into, but it's still connected. It's this dissatisfaction of something, and then there's an immersion. That's the second ayin, where a person takes a new thought, a new identity, and then once it reemerges, that becomes the yeshamiti. So I guess we could break that down, but it's interesting how the same model applies in between the two yesh. There is always that ayin, and b'derech pra, these are the two ayins. One is connected to the previous level, and one where the new level reemerges.
Mila, I feel like we've come full circle. We didn't put on the recording, but this is really the discussion.
Oh my gosh, we did not put on the recording.
Or when we were talking about the river of change and how do you let go of old beliefs and all of that. And in a way, this is, I wonder, like, if this is a therapeutic model, how you could relate this to therapy, to the process of real change. And maybe we can just leave it at that. So it's something to think about.
I think we should turn on the recording. Is it on the recording that what they need to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mila, please. Dissatisfaction is still connected to the old.
Because I'm this. Let's say if I am.
Let's say I'm looking for the word. I understand.
Dissatisfaction.
I understand. My question is, you said another word. So, what is after dissatisfaction is a change, or what did you say?
So the first level of ayin is dissatisfaction with your yesh, right? You realize I need to change.
Yes.
Then, but you changing into what? What are you changing into? It's not being satisfied from what you had. It's not yet, you're not creating Matthias. Okay, I don't want to be poor. Okay, amazing. Or I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be impatient. Whatever the qualities that you don't like about yourself. Like, but what do you want to be? Just the fact that you don't want to be, it doesn't, you're not renewing anything.
It is not how to get, it's what to change.
Exactly. What are you changing into? What is your new identity? By erasing your old identity, you cannot become nothing. That's Hashem doesn't want that. Hashem wants dira b'tachtonim, meaning here, this world exists. That's it. Now, so what are you changing into? Oh, you're changing into X, Y, and Z. Okay, now that I take that, that's a second level. What are you changing into? And then you actually changing into that. So that's the yesh amiti, when you already reemerge. So I guess the second ayin is like this. But Naria, you're right. It's definitely could be applied, and we could apply it endlessly. Because once you understand the formula, you understand how change happens, you could definitely apply it endlessly.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so
I just wonder if it's possible, like that outside arrow, to go, is there a way to go straight? Like I heard a story about the Rebbe giving a bracha to a 75-year-old Holocaust survivor who was, he had a good life. He lost his first family, but he had a good life. He lived in Eretz Israel, but he was constantly plagued with nightmares. He still had the experience of the Holocaust in him. And the Rebbe said, well, Avram Avinu at 75, he was Lech Lecha, he left Haran. Haran is anger, Haran af. And then after, I guess the Rebbe gave him a bracha, and he was cleared of his nightmares after that. So, but maybe that's above nature.
No, but that's why not? It's Hashem making miracles. It's
Of
amazing.
course.
But this diagram shows that maybe it is not the way we have to go. This is the way we have to go to let go and to work on ourselves. But maybe there is a way to go from yesh nifrad to yesh amiti. Just
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not that this is like must happen. Sometimes we just go express. You see this arrow like right here? This shows this yichud, that it just like this. But derech prat is like, sometimes you just go express, but you still go through those stations, but it just goes express. Like in trains, you could do that sometimes.
okay.
That you just take this shuttle that goes, straight into
Right.
this. It doesn't have to be, as I mentioned, like it's the Yeshua of Hashem comes in the blink of an eye. But in the blink of an eye, it doesn't mean that we don't go through these stages. It just happens very fast. It's not like a whole.
Yeah,
Well,
Giving
you know
birth.
what? There's a reason why Hashem came down in these stages. If you study it, it talks about it. I don't remember anything now, but he could have also just bing bang in one shot, being something else. I mean, being available. But there's a reason.
He created, the reason it's given in Chassidus that he created a way up.
Mm.
Well, he also created a way down.
Yeah, no, but he could have not, he could have done like this, down, that's it. It's just a Matthias.
Right.
So the fact that he did it in stages, he allowed us to climb up.
I think we don't maybe grasp the magnitude of what creation is, to think that it could just be so simple from one stage to another stage. It's so grand that it has to go through stages. And that's part of the grandness of it.
But maybe the reality of Golos is the slow process, and we're stuck here, and I don't know. I think I would assume that most of us are looking for the express train because we want to get there.
But I'll tell you, Nechama, once, this like the music, it's called a beat.
But
And it's the hardest piece to play on the violin. And once I saw a very interesting, there's like this one record player in violin, and he could just play it like nobody could play it as fast as him, and he's not missing any note. It's a very famous one. I don't know who wrote it. Whatever, you could look at the beat.
the flight of the bumblebee.
Bumblebee, yeah. And it's it's like you can't even sing it out, but this guy knows how to play every single note, and it's a world record. And people asked him, how can you play it so fast? He said, I worked very, very hard to play it very slow. This was a key. You can't play something very fast unless you first learn how to play it very slow. Now, is that a Golos? Possible. Well, we are in Golos right now, we're definitely in Golos mentality. But the fact that he was able to play this piece very, very slowly, very, very accurately, and slowly adding on the speed allowed him to be in the world record. And those who want to skip that somehow didn't make it to the world record. So there is a wisdom behind it. And I know there are a few interesting interesting tips from Mozart on how to play accurately amazing pieces of music. But this is just what it is. You learn how to do things very slowly.
That's basic. I'm learning. I mean, with children, you always have to slow them down. Just do it slowly. If it's reading olive pace, and usually want to go fast. But yes, I believe in slow. Slow is sometimes harder.
It's like a long, short way.
It's much harder. It's much harder. And also, you remind me, my piano teacher would always tell me, she says, when you play the piece fast, you have to go back sometime and play the same piece slow. And that's going to make sure that you're playing it correctly when you're playing it fast. You lose it. If you lose the slow, then you can't do the fast.
Right.
I think, Nechama, you're asking a different question, which is like, it's not about fast or slow. It's about making a quantum leap. Like, I don't want to go through the process.
Mhm.
And
I can see that between the first iron and the second iron, one could get stuck in all these places.
yeah, and we do. I think we often get stuck in the place of iron.
But I think the thing is to know to know what the goal is.
Exactly. That's what Naria said. What is our destination? But you know what? I think it takes an immense emunah and feeling worthy of a new yesh.
But this is the whole shtus de kedusha.
Yeah,
The
it's like,
quantum
yes,
leap is exactly.
I could exist, and this is my new yesh. Why is it? And it's not, a lot of times the false humility kicks in, tells us like, oh, just be an ayin. And it's sometimes it's cool to be an ayin. Whatever will happen, it usually wraps is like, I don't know what Hashem has for me. Whatever Hashem will send, I will accept. These are all, false humility, because Hashem wants us our narrative, how you want to have your life. Eftach picha, right? Open your mouth, say what you want. And we're like, no, whatever you'll send me, I'm okay with it. No, we're not okay with everything what Hashem will send us. We have concrete desires, and that's okay to have a desire. Moreover, Hashem wants us to have a desire. Tell me what you want. And sometimes we get stuck by not creating that identity, because then we feel afraid that we're going to limit ourselves. But no, my today's redemption could be my tomorrow's goals. I could always grow, but I need to identify myself. I need to bring into that new yesh in order to purify. And that's ekya. You're right. Sometimes we could just want to stay in the water and not never come out.
Okay, I also wanted to connect it. I can connect it. In one way, I just want to affirm, Nechama, that really there's a place in all of us that just wants the shortcut. We just want, we just want to be there. We just want it to be over. We don't want to have to go through the pain of the ayin and the pain of the second ayin and whatever it is, if it's painful or if it's a challenge. There's a part of us that doesn't want it. Right, beseder. But, I also see it as being very much about what Chabad Chassidus is about, as opposed to Chagat Chassidus, which is in Chagat Chassidus, in general, the Rebbe does the work for you, and you hold on to his lapel, onto his coattails. That's how Chabad talks about it. Whereas in the very first Maimah that the Rebbe gave over, he said very clearly, don't think I'm going to do the work for you. Is that not correct? This is Chabad Chassidus. Chabad Chassidus is about doing the work. And it's in doing the work, really doing the work of Chabad, we are conquering something that right now is not under our reshut. And I'm talking about physically and also personally. We're talking about expanding the borders of Eretz Yisrael through this work. That's what the Rebbe said. If we really do it, then, you already see it's part of the discourse.
Yes, Syria and the Gazans are going to move to Egypt. These
Well-
things are happening.
You know, like things that seemed unimaginable are suddenly imaginable. You know, so if you're sitting there and if we're sitting there and saying, just want it to be over, and we do, but somehow this is the Eke Asher Eke. Hashem is saying to us, and I don't understand it exactly, but I sense something. Hashem is saying, you, the Jewish people, not only are you going to go out of Mitzrayim, and that's going to be part of your DNA, but there are more Mitzrayims to come. There's more Galut to come because you have a job to do here in the world. And there's a process of Birurim. And I'm going to be with you in this process going forward. He told that to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe said, the people can't handle that right now. Just take them out of this Galut. But we're being told through the Torah, Hashem is with us in this process, meaning this is the process we have to go through. And this is really the Eon process. And if we feel the Eon process is the hard work, and if we understand that this hard work, which is the second Ekia, is rooted in the first one, like that by doing this work that just seems so frustrating, we don't really see that much change, not in ourselves and not in the world and not in Eretz Israel. We can get so frustrated, and Hashem is saying to me anyway, it's like, don't give up. I'm with you. And it's not just that I'm with you, but this highest level of Ekia, this highest, most infinite level that barely doesn't have a name. That's what's with you in this process of Eon, in this process of Galut, in this process of just trying to, you don't even know what, getting lost in the details.
But
And to the highest level of who I am, the highest name of Hashem in Keter.
you know, but I'm looking at this, and I see you making a whole Aveda for bringing based on it. But in its raw form, it's really talking about godliness. And to me, I'm connecting it to the directive Das Hashem Elokecha, to know God. And I know it's dry for me because I don't have an understanding in Elokus. But if I would know, maybe if I would use my powers of Eun, I'd be able to have rich visual imagery. There is an incredible Tainug in Elokus. When I would go into there, I wouldn't be asking, can I shortcut? It would have so much meaning. It's extraordinarily rich and magnificent, full of immense simcha and tainug. I wouldn't be asking shortcut. If I'm in there, I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to dwell on Das Hashem Elokecha.
Exactly, that's what it is. Because it's like you get so involved in a process that your destination loses its meaning in a way. The process becomes a destination.
Exactly.
You're saying that the process should be the destination.
It's not should be, it becomes. And this is the key word, becomes. Meaning we making our efforts, and then the shift happens. We cannot make that shift. It becomes. You know what I mean? It's like in a relationship. Where's the destination in a relationship? That's what.
But that's like being mindful that what's happening now, and you're letting go of the outcome. And
Exactly. And the fact that we interact, this is the relationship. It's the interaction. You see this, the other person says that.
It's not that you let go of the outcome. When you do what I
the outcome is the relationship. Does that make sense? It's the deep relationship. This is the outcome. When you are in a relationship with your spouse, that's why the Shir Hashirim is all about that relationship, because this is the only mashal that we have. It's truly like it's it's like feel the other person, understand the other person. It's like, be with the other person. This is what you want to do. It's not like, oh, what's the destination in a relationship? In a relationship, the destination is the depth. And deeper and deeper, and that provides more and more oneg.
You can only experience it at a certain level. It's like, you just have to do it, and then you'll come and say what Mila says.
I operate from the joy of anticipation. And all the time I'm thinking that I will have these terms, and then incredibly rich intrinsic reward will be that they will all suddenly spring to life. And all of us who sat here Sunday mornings and dedicated this time to learning this, we will have such a more rich experience knowing, having much more of a handle on this.
No, look, the thing is, the reason I keep going back to saying why I didn't want to teach this is because there's only a certain amount that can happen in the class. Basically, in the class, we're trying to give you access to the text, but in the Eon is something you really do on your own with the text. And if you're not doing that, then all these things that we're talking about are just hoping for, the quantum leap to happen. If you go and take any one of these paragraphs and sit with it and do Eon on it for an hour, for half an hour, for whatever it is, just going into the details, then you'll begin to understand what we're talking about. Just do the work with any paragraph, with any of it. So, and then you'll say, yeah, the process is the reward. And you struggle with it, some of it. And then that's the struggle is the process. And it becomes the reward when you go beyond just the struggle, and then you get something. So all of this is just, like trying to describe blue to a blind person, unless, the person can suddenly see blue. But here it's just through the experience of doing it.
Can I say something?
Sure.
If you look downstairs in 770, they look like they're having a good time. You see all these chavrusas, and they're like, and like they're taking apart a puzzle. They're sitting with a page of whatever, a sefer, and they're like, what do you think this means? Oh, this, no, oh, wow. And they're going back and forth, and they look like they're having a good time. They don't look like they're falling asleep. It looks pretty interesting. So I guess some people like to do the Eon, like they sit with the text by themselves and they work at it until they fall asleep. And then other people are like, they get together in chavrusas and they're like, well, what do you think this word means? Well, it thinks this and that. And the process is, for people who like chavrusas, it's very exciting. I'm just saying. And so I assume that we can do Eon in chavrusas as well.
No,
I
for
think.
sure, for
And
sure. There is an Eon, remember the Hayom Yom. It's a very famous Hayom Yom that the Hisbonenus has 3 parts to it. One is Eon Sichli, is the intellectual Eon, and that's what you're describing. Yeah, for sure. You have to get into details and and this and create charts and all kinds of things, and that requires a lot of interaction. But then there is an Eon before the davening, not the Eon, the Hisbonenus before the davening. The Hisbonenus before the davening is that when we take everything what we did in the Seichel Eon and we dwell on it, we just literally stare at it. That's it. That's when we feel the chayus in it. It's no longer intellectual, but we feel the vitality of the concept that's being discussed. Then you go through the davening with this, and the contemplation, the hisbonenus, that's where we feel elokus. Because the goal is elokus. The goal is not the details. The goal is that when they re-emerge into a big klal, of actually experiencing God. And this is the goal. So you're right. The first stage is the chavrusas, and what we're doing now is the class, is learning and, doing all that. Yeah, then yes, but then there are other stages of deepening that awareness, because ultimately all this knowledge, it's not just become clever and knowledgeable in whatever else we're doing, is to heighten our awareness of Hashem.
It goes from being learning to being an experience.
Yeah, and that experience, nobody could do it for you. It's everybody is going to do it for themselves. And I think
So I
this
want to
is
say
what
one
the
more thing
Rebbe
about
alludes.
vacation.
No,
say
that
one thing about
becomes the vacation. That's what I'm trying to
Right,
say.
right. I just want to say that. I'm saying, I feel like, not like I've been to so many places. I ran out of vacation spots. Nothing's very interesting. The only interesting place to go on vacation is Tekeni Knizi V'Kadmaini. So I know that every time I'm in this, I'm like I'm out of the mud, the quicksand of the world that just drags you into this, like there's no, like down into the pit. And to be in that place of open, clear truth, it's like, I can finally breathe, right? I can finally breathe. And I know from learning Chassidus, if I'm wrong, you get your money back. I know that there's going to be a moment when they're going to announce, by the way, anybody who even put their foot for 1 minute into Tekeni Knizi V'Kadmaini now gets, like you get the $500,000 rebate or whatever. All you had to do, and people were like, wow, why didn't you tell me that? And I know, why didn't you tell me? I would have just gone there and journeyed there for literally 10 minutes. And then you know what I'm saying? There is these things that if you go there afterwards, you get, you have access to a certain thing that nobody else gets. I know it. I know that going into Tekeni Knizi V'Kadmaini, there's going to come a moment where anybody who's been there now gets this, and this. And I want that. So going there is just like, yeah, I'm going.
Well,
So I have to
we're all
understand
going now. That's exactly what we're
Right.
doing. That's amazing. Thank you, Saratova.
Right. That's why I want to do it.
Okay,
And
guys.
whatever I don't understand, I just move on. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, ladies, love you all. My class is waiting for me. My other class.
Take care.
Oh,
See you next week.
Sure.
Bye.
Zagis, and thank you.
thank you.